How do you access elements of list and tuple? Well, list and tuple, they support indexing. That's a good thing. So the way you access a list is by specifying your index, and you use this square bracket right here. So suppose I have my data right here, and this is a list of numbers. This could be anything. This could be age, income, could be anything. And by the way, on a side note, your index always starts with 0. So this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, index 3, and so on and so forth. So if I want to access an element at index 0, I'm going to use data, square bracket, put 0 over there, and close the square bracket. And when I run this, let me comment these two lines out. Okay, let me comment all these lines out, and let's just use this one. So when I run this, it's going to print 10 because the element at index 0 is 10. What if I want to print an element at index 3? Index 3 would be 0, 1, 2, 3. This is the element at index 3. When I run this, it's going to print 70. All right. What if I want to have element which is the last element? You can access the last element too by specifying -1. So this will be -1, this will be -2, this will be -3, -4, and so on and so forth. So if I type print data -1, that's going to print me the last element, which is 50. 50. What if I want an element, fourth element from the last number? So this is -1, -2, -3, and this is -4. I want this one. So you just have to say data square bracket -4. This is called indexing, and it prints out element at which is the fourth element from the last. Then there is a list slicing. Uh, the way your list slicing works is that you open up a square bracket, you specify your starting index, and then there's a colon. Then you specify your stop index, then there's a colon, and then you specify your step size. If you do not specify any one of these position, then by default, your start index is going to be 0. Your default for stop index is going to be the last position of your data of your list or tuple, and your default for your step size is always going to be equal to 1 if you do not specify any of these values. Again, let's say this is your data right here, and you print my data, and I print the data right here. So it prints out the data. So let me comment this line out, and let's run this. So what's just happening is this. I'm saying 1 colon 5. Well, actually, it's going to print out all the element from index 1 to index 4. It is not going to print the index 5th. It's going to print all the way up to index 5, but excluding 5. So it's going to slice from index 1 to index 4. So the element from index 1 would be this, index 2, index 3, index 4, right here. So it's going to print 30, 60, 70, and 50. 30, 60, 70, 50. If I say, if I write 7 over here, it's going to print, actually, let's just make it 2. If I say 2 colon 7, it's going to start with index 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. It's going to print these elements. So if I run this, you can see that it printed 60, 70, 50, 30, 60. All right, let's go back, change it to 5. Let's run this, and there you go. Now let's look at this step size right here. Here I did not specify this right here. I just used only 1 colon 5. So by default, your step size was 1. But now let's change the gear a little bit. Let's specify our step size. So I'm saying slice from index 1 all the way to index 7, okay? But do not include index 7. In other words, you print index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but this time you use step size of 2. So in other words, you're just going to skip one of the elements. So you keep going one over the other. So when I run this, it's going to print 30, 70, 30. So start with index 1, which is right here. Step size is 2, so it's going to go 1 and 2. Let me just use this marker. It's a little bit more easy to understand. So it's going to start with this right here. This is my index 1, and step size is 2. So it's going to go 1, 2. It's going to print 70. It printed 30, printed 70. Then it's going to go 1, 2. It's going to print 30. It printed 30. Now it's going to keep doing it until it reaches index 7, but it's going to exclude 7. So it's going to stop 1 before 7. That would be index 6. So your index 6 would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where it's going to stop. So it's going to go again 1, 2, 1, 2, and then 1, 2. It cannot go further than that. So it's only going to print 30, 70, and 30. Okay. Uh, List slicing. Let's play around with list slicing a little bit more. Suppose I have this data right here: 10, 30, 60, 70, 50, 30, 60, 90, like this. I want to slice the first three elements. Well, in this case, you can say data colon 3, and this is going to work just fine. Let me comment these lines out right here, and let's run this. It's going to do, oh, sorry, where was that? Ah, there it is. Was it this one? Nope, 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 nope. Oh, yeah, there you go. So I want the first slice of the first three elements. So you just say colon 3. You don't have to specify 0. It's but because by default, if you're not specifying, your start index is going to be 0 by default. So it's going to print out element from 0, 1, and 2, the first three elements right here: 10, 30, 60. All right, what if you want slice of elements from index 2 all the way up to the last element? So in this case, I'm not specifying this element. In other words, I'm not specifying stop index, and I'm also not specifying my step size. So default for your stop index is going to be last position, and your step size default is going to be 1. So it's going to go from starting with index 2, okay, and it's going to keep going all the way to the end. So index 2 would be this right here. So it's going to go from here all the way up to here. It's going to print this. When I run this, you can see there 60, 70, 50, 30, 60, all the way up to 50. All right, what about this? In this particular instance, I'm saying print everything, give me all the slice from beginning all the way to end with the step size 2. So in this case, I'm not specifying this. My start index, I'm not specifying. So by default is 0. That means start with index 0. Stop index, I did not specify over there. So since I did not specify, my stop index is going to be the last position. So start from the beginning all the way to the last position. Step size is 2. Okay, and when I run this, it's gonna print out, well, let's see, let's just, before I run this, let me just show you what it does. It starts with here, okay, step size 2, so 1, 2, it's gonna print 60, it's gonna go 1, 2, because my step size is 2, gonna print 50, 1, 2, gonna print this, 1, 2, and it's gonna print this. It's gonna print 10, 60, 50, 30, and 10. And let's run this, and let me just comment this out and run this, and there you go. 10, 60, 50, 60, 10. 10, 60, 50, 60, 10. All right, what if you want to reverse the string? Well, you can reverse that too by using -1 over here. So your start index is 0, your end index is -1, and you're saying go in a negative direction. Step size is -1. You can do that. So this is a little nifty trick. If you have to reverse the string, you can do that using this little -1 at the end. This is going to print 50, 10, 90, 60. You can see that 50, 10, 90, 60. It's just printing this whole string in a reverse order. Same thing with tuple. Whatever we did this thing for list, we can do the same thing with tuple. In tuple, indexing starts with 0. So I create a tuple right here. And these are like anything. This could be anything. This could be, let's say, age or income. I print the data. And let's say you want, let me just comment these two lines out. Let's run this. If I want an element at index 0, you say data, square bracket 0. And it's going to print out element at index 0, which is 10 for the tuple. If you want an element of the tuple at index 3, this is going to print out 70, 0, 1, 2, 3. When I run this, it prints out 70. All right. What if you want to have the last element? Same principle like the way we did with list, put -1 inside the square bracket. And that's going to give you the last element, which is 50. Double slicing, same principle like the way we did with in the list. Start index, stop index, step size. Default for stop index is 0. Default for stop index is last position, and the default for step size is 1. So in this case, everything is same. I'm just changing my data to 1 to 7, and I'm actually changing my data from list to tuple. That's it. But other than that, everything is same. So when you run this, it's going to print everything exactly same way the way it did for the list. Slicing, in this case, same thing as we did for the list. This is my tuple right here. So if you want to slice the first three elements, you can say colon 3. and that's going to give you the first three elements. So when you run this, it's going to print the first three elements, 10, 30, 60, just like it did with the list. Same thing with this. This is going to be printing the slice from index 2 all the way to the last element. When you run this, it's going to print 10, 70, 50, 30, 60. So it starts from index 2, which is this right here. All right. Same thing with this. If you run this one, this is going to print from beginning to end with a step size 2. Beginning to end with a step size 2, just like we did with the list. And there you go, 10, 60, 50, 60, 10. What about this one? Well, this is going to reverse the string. No surprises here because this is going to follow exactly the same pattern as it did with the string. Sorry, as it did with the list. And then you set. It does not support indexing the way indexing was supported by list and tuple. So suppose this is my data right here. This data is a set, and I print my data. This is the print right here. Now, if I try to change or if I try to access an element at index 0, I'm going to get an error. And that makes sense because if you look at your element right here, it is not preserving the order. You see that this is not the same as this. That's because it has removed the duplicates, it is changing the order. So that's why indexing does not make sense over here. Let's run this. All right. Now, list and set are mutable. In other words, you can change the elements of list and set. On the other hand, tuples is immutable. You cannot do that to a tuple. So let's understand this through an example. Suppose I have a list right here. I print the list before I make any changes, and then I make a change over here. I'm saying over here that change the data at index 2, which is right here, to 99. And then I'm printing my data again after that. So when I run this, you can see that data before is this right here. And this is your 60 at index 2. After I made the changes, now this is 99. All right, now let's try to modify the same thing, the same data, but this time I'm using a tuple right here. So I print my data right here. Now if I try to modify at element at index 2, just like this one right here, I'm trying to modify that. Let's make this thing as 99. Okay, so if I try to modify it, it's gonna throw me an error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. So tuple is immutable. That's what you mean by this statement. Now set elements, they can be changed, but you cannot change them through indexing because indexing is not allowed. I will explain you later on how to do this thing.